We are a university here, so I think it's just fitting to talk about learning in the context of play today. When I was a researcher of learning games at Stanford, and later at different toys and game companies like Leapfrog, I had a job to observe people, young and old, of how they play, and what makes them come back to these engaging games and keep on playing. While casual games, like chess, Roblox, or World of Warcraft, are aimed at fun and entertainment, or just to avoid boredom, educational games are there to teach us things, like a new language in Duolingo, or just to refresh your cognitive skills in Lumosity. But when games have a dual purpose, to educate and engage, they often fail in one of those. Now, when I was at this educational gaming company and startup, we used to say that when a learning content is great, but the engaging, fun part of the game isn't great, and we call that the chocolate-covered broccoli. Okay? So, the thin layer of sweetness won't fool any kid. And of course, no players would really continue playing and engaging with such a game. Okay, so games have game mechanics. Those are the rules. And those are there to guide the player through the game and make it come back. Those are the rules that help the player engage with it, engage you with the game and how the game or the other player responds back to you. Game mechanics can be just rolling a dice or moving a chess piece on the board, or just, say, going and driving in the cart of Mario Kart. Game mechanics can really help you understand what is in the core of the game. As a learning designer myself, my job was to match the game mechanics with those pieces of educational content that helped achieve the best learning outcomes. For example, in one of the games called SimCity EDU that I helped design, we asked the players to bulldoze down coal-based power plants and replace them with wind or solar plants, right? Making the air cleaner and our virtual citizens happier. And by doing that, we could also teach the middle school-age players about the environmental harms of fossil fuels. So while working on educational games, I realized something. I realized that I could apply these very same game mechanics to reframe how I think about learning, how I think about work, to change my narrative into something more fulfilling and something more intrinsically fun. As I share this with you, I immediately have to say two caveats. One is that games don't make learning easy. Instead, what they taught me is that I go out and actively seek for those difficult challenges, just like with a game. And second, I have to share with you that games are not gamification. Playful learning is not gamification. Gamification uses rewards outside of the game. In true games, and in the kind of playful learning I'm talking about here, the reward is the gameplay itself. I have a funny story about this. So one of these other startups I worked at, we had what we called a G jar. Okay? It was a physical jar where everybody had to put in $5, $5, anytime you used the G word, gamification, instead of considering real game mechanics and finding out what is it that really will engage the players and bring them back, and what makes that intrinsic motivation to hook people into the play. And then we use the money at the end of the month to go out for pizza and beer. Usually we're happy at the end of the month. Okay, so I'm going to share you 3 game mechanics for learning that worked for me in my career. First, you need to find the core loop of your course that you're taking or your job that you're doing. Core loop is something that keeps the players going, that you come back over and over again, that empowers you to keep on playing. Sometimes we call this the engine of the game. In Jenga, when you play, you take a block out from the bottom, and you place it on the top. That's the core loop. In chess, you move your pieces to take the opponents. In SimCity, you bulldoze, you build, and you bank the money, that is, that you get from your virtual city. And when it comes to SMU, I teach UX. Some of my students are right here in the audience. So you should know that the core loop for building a website or creating an app is to find the unmet user need. Then build a digital product that addresses that unmet user need, preferably faster than your competition. If you're a mathematician, your core loop is to find a problem, find a proof, and hopefully find a solution. If you're a software engineer, your core loop is to code and compile. Okay, and sometimes to drink a lot of coffee with that. So my advice for your real-life playful learning is to find that core loop that matters in your course. Find that core loop that matters in your job. Ask yourself these questions. Do I know the rules of the game? Whether that's a work or your internship. Do I know why did my boss hire me? Right? What was that thing that she saw in me that no one else, no other candidates had? How can I quickly double down on that thing, on that core loop that made me the one who got hired to that job? How can I double down and become and move from a rookie to a master level player? So my first advice is focus on these core loops. Be the best at them and deprioritize everything else. Okay, second tip. The winning strategy is about people. Strategy board games like Settlers of Catan, they require negotiation. They require alliance building. They require, sometimes, deception. Probably, actually, the most extreme example of this is Among Us, right? Where you manipulate others, sowing distrust amongst your teammates while you're trying to avoid being detected as the imposter. But, of course, there are more positive examples of that as well. Like, do you know those escape room games that you willingly or maybe grudgingly participated with your team? Yeah? So those are really predicated on that you collaborate to solve the puzzles and escape within the given time limit. Think of your university courses or think of your job. Those are two based on predicated of the winning strategy of collaboration. You need to collaborate with your teachers, you need to collaborate with your peers and your bosses. It always amazes me how few of my students actually ask me out for a coffee. I used to socialize with my professors during college at all times. I played football with them. I'm not a good football player. I played football with them. I knew the names of their kids. I read their research papers, even the ones that they didn't give us in the class. And when I talk to them, I really try to seek out what are the kind of things that excites them about everything in life. And this really helped me because I became a research assistant in their labs. I became the collaborator on their research papers. They helped me find scholarships, okay? And they wrote very heartful letters of recommendations. And until today, I'm very honored to call some of those professors my friends. So the game mechanic here is collaboration. Collaboration with the other players all around you. Ask yourself the question, who are those other players? Who are those other players in my classroom? Who are the other players, the university professors running on these halls here? Right? Who are those key players in your university or job game? How can I build up genuine connections with them? All right? Does my teacher, a boss, know about my dreams? Have I invested enough into that relationship so that they can help me achieve those dreams and level up? Universities and jobs are multiplayer games. So you need the same winning strategy as in a multiplayer game. You need to work and collaborate with people to succeed. Okay, number 3, measure and recognize progress. If you ever played Mario Kart, right, going around, that you know the exhilarating excitement as you're getting closer to the finish line or the flag posts, right, especially the final round, okay? How about that receiving, when you play Candy Crush, and how about receiving the 3 stars there when you crush the level? Good feeling, right? How about the opposite of feelings, when you get a devastating defeat in chess? If you ever play chess on chess.com like I do, and you get defeated, what do? You don't throw it away. You don't, I never look at that thing again. No, you cannot wait to go into that post-play analytics to look at all the blunders and inaccuracies that you did during the game so that you don't have the same problems, the same mistakes the next time you come around and you jump into that play. Okay? So these are the game mechanics that help you measure and recognize your progress. You celebrate those achievements and become better at the games. They give the players feedback. Another mechanic that we talk a lot about games. These feedbacks are a chance to adjust your strategy, refine your skills, and learn from your mistakes. And these are what ultimately increase that engagement that you have as a player to continue to play. So, my question to you is, what if we could change our narrative about learning to something similar? Could we perhaps get so excited about an upcoming exam as seeing a new level on Candy Crush? How about framing a revision after a failed test, the same as a chess.com post-game analytics? How about that fluttering feeling and excitement when the final grades are about to be released? Just the same way as you're getting close to the flagpole in Mario Kart. Can we do that? I believe we can. I believe we can change into this playful learning narrative. I have. So how about we change all of that and we get those tests and quizzes and we take them with a game-like attitude, instead of that fear and avoidance that I sometimes see in the eyes of my students. So how can you do that? First, start small. Seek out any kind of small challenges that come to you, as small as they are. Then level up. Start to get yourself into larger competitions. Give speeches from this very same podium I'm standing on. And you can practice this. I tell you how. Ask ChatGPT to trivia game you before your next exam. Okay? And even better, prepare for a job interview and update your resume at least on a quarterly basis. Okay? Even if you don't want to change your jobs. I have another story for you. I had a boss once at Netflix, where I used to work, who encouraged all of us to go and interview at the competitors at least once a quarter. All right? And even if we got the offer, which we often did, we wouldn't leave, ever. We stayed. This was the game. This was commonly understood, and we played the game together. Okay? So even if you don't interview regularly, okay, you should seek constant feedback from those game masters in your life, whether those are your teachers, your professors, your peers, your friends, the competitors, on how you're doing. Get that feedback. Treat your performance evaluation something like a game, or your grade report as a boss battle in an action game. Okay? So to ask yourself that question, does your professor even know your name? Or are you just another pawn on that chessboard? Do you attend enough meetups, conferences to know about your competitive advantage? Do you have mentors who can help you change the strategy and become better at your learning? So, as a conclusion, I'd like to say that, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is not gamification. These are not gimmicks that work. The biggest trick you can do to have a playful narrative about learning is to have the internalized motivation about what you're doing. The game itself should be your greatest motivator. Okay? And what you do matters. You should feel that what you're doing is matter to you, not what it gives you. It's not about the outcome. It's not about the degrees or the salary that you receive. Guess what? You get your bachelor, you want to do a master's. You get your master's, you want to do a PhD. You have a PhD, you want to get tenure. You tenure, you want to go to academia and sit in some sort of fancy boardroom, right? Or if you earn $100,000, guess what? You want to earn $200,000. So I'd like to sum it up, and I'd like to suggest how to learn playfully. Remember, focus on your core loops, collaborate with others, and measure the progress and celebrate those achievements. So from today, treat your homeworks, your tasks, your jobs as quests or missions to be completed. Grades will be your bonus points rather than those scary, scary feelings. And promotion should be a power-up, no question. Okay? So you will want to come back to this playful learning experience all the time. It's just like games. Have it internally motivate you, that excitement of discovery. And reframe your perspective towards learning and education into a much more fulfilling and playful approach. Okay, so remember, neither games nor learning is always fun or easy. Don't ask for the chocolate-covered broccoli. Enjoy learning even if it's hard sometimes. So, my friends, embrace the broccoli and eat it like a chocolate. Thank you.